Welcome to this special edition of Morgan the Asked For podcast. Sunday night, just a little after 8 o'clock, Selection Sunday, men's and women's tournaments field are set. Several Iowa teams are involved. Both Iowa State teams, men's and women, Drake men, and then the Iowa women are all involved in the big dance. So not as many as some past years where all the women's teams are in or all the men's teams get in, but always exciting time of year. I do want to start with Iowa State because I think that's the most relevant, and for me personally and for the news that happened immediately after Iowa State was selected. First, 3 seed in Milwaukee playing 12:30 Friday. Morgan, you asked for it, will be on location in Milwaukee. I hedged my bet. I bought hotel and tickets to that place a month ago. I didn't tell very many people. I was sweating bullets today because no bracket had them in Milwaukee. Yesterday, if you looked at all the brackets, they were a 4 seed. Today, a few of them did move them up to a 3, but it was Wichita, it was Denver, it was Seattle. It was kind of all over the place, but nowhere in Milwaukee. And again, I think these conference this could be an entire podcast in itself. These conference tournaments do not matter. It didn't. Iowa State winning the Big 12 last year didn't change their seed. Wisconsin getting to the final and giving Michigan all they wanted did not help Wisconsin. That's a whole argument that we can have another time in another podcast. But Iowa State, 3 seed in Milwaukee over Wisconsin. Wisconsin went to Denver as the 3 seed.
Well, you hedged correctly. We talked about them being in Milwaukee, so that's good for you. I did look yesterday and today. I saw a lot at 4, them being a 4 seed. So for them to get a 3 is still really good considering how the end of the season went, how the Big 12 tournament went. Like you said, the last 10, it doesn't seem like they're factoring that in as much as maybe they should. The flip side, we'll get to them later, is the women's side. It does seem like the conference tournaments do matter. Maybe that's 2 different groups that they're going on with the voting and how they're doing all that. But for Iowa State, the big news, obviously getting the 3 seed in Milwaukee is huge. And then the news that came out probably 10 minutes after with the injury.
Just right away. Well, it's not a secret that he is hurt. I mean, that he's been in and out of the lineup for 3 weeks now. But it's kind of came out that Keyshawn Gilbert the story is Keyshawn Gilbert is not playing for Iowa State anymore. He's done. There's some reports or things. Will he travel? Is he with the team? The pictures that show the team when they were selected and the team being there, he's right in the middle. He is there and he is celebrating with his team. So, and I assume the decision was made prior to that. I believe it was made today officially. But during the selection show, he was right in the middle. And then, I mean, it was 5, like you said, it was 5 or 10 minutes later that TJ Otzelberger was in his press conference. And he started the press conference by saying Lipsy is getting healthier day by day. Expect him to play. You know, obviously they don't know how much or how healthy he'll be, but he's progressing to getting to play. I would be 100% shocked if he does not play on Friday. How much is a different story, and how the game goes, I think definitely will affect that. But then he came out and said Keyshawn Gilbert will not play any games. And it's not just he's not playing this weekend or he's not playing Friday. He is out for the entire tournament. So Iowa State could go win a national championship, play April 4th or whatever day it is, which is a whole nother 3 weeks for him to get healthy, and he's still not going to play. 2 things with that. One, I think some of the problem this last 14 games where they're 7-7 or 8-8, whatever you want, their skid. He has came out and said he got hurt in the first conference game in Colorado, which was right at New Year's. And I was just watching. It's not done. It's live. They're going long tonight. But Williams and Bloom on Cyclone Fanatic. At Christmas time, Keyshawn Gilbert was the number 3 player in the country from what he did in Maui and Iowa State was number 2 in the country. The tip-in loss to Auburn. Auburn went on and beat everybody else but Duke. Keyshawn Gilbert was one of the best players in the country. It makes sense that he got hurt that early. Now, hindsight is 2020. He got hurt, should have sat him all of January, all of February, and now play him. Still don't know if that would work, but that is probably what should have happened. But it didn't. None we can do about it now. And Brent Bloom went back and looked. Keyshawn Gilbert is the second worst offensive player in conference games only. So he has been hurt, and offensively, he's not been as good. Now, I truly believe offensively, Iowa State's going to be fine. Defense is where they are going to miss him. The last full game he played, he had 8 steals. That's, I don't care, healthy, not healthy, whatever. 8 steals is a stud on defense. That is where they're going to miss him. Case in point, they give up 96 points to BYU.
Yeah, the injury is definitely big. I know I was just looking at the title odds. Iowa State dropped down to 45-1. I bet them a few weeks ago at 25-1. I know when I was in Reno, Nevada, a month and a half, well, about 2 months ago now this time, I think they were 16-1 in odds. So obviously if you want to buy low, now's the time to do it. I did look, speaking of Iowa State, and I've got some written down that we can talk about a little bit later, but they are plus 170 when I looked a bit ago to make the Sweet 16. Do you still think that they can win at least 2 games even without him?
Yes, their draw is really, really good. Going to be a lot of Iowa State fans in Milwaukee. It's only a 5-hour drive, so that helps a lot. 3 versus a 14. Now, Iowa State's lost as a 3. Many teams have over the course of the NCAA tournament, but you should win that one. Just because you are a better team. You might not be a better team that night, but you are a better team. So you should win that one no matter what. Then you're going to play Ole Miss as a 6, and then you've got the winner of the play-in game. So you can't just go scout 2 teams. You got to go scout 3 teams right now. And then that game is San Diego State and North Carolina. North Carolina is about a 2.5, 3-point favorite, I think, is what Chris Williams said. I was just listening to. I don't know much about San Diego State, I'll be honest. I do know they beat Houston early in the season. It's only been a couple years since they went to the Final Four. I know Steve Fisher retired, and things have changed out in San Diego State. I don't think maybe they're as good as they once were, but obviously they're in the tournament. Good teams. North Carolina, 1-12 with quad 1 games. Only 1 quad 1 win, but they are North Carolina. They've got some good players. And you win the first 4 game. Then you win that second game, and you start – we see it every year. One of those first 4 teams make the Sweet 16 or Elite 8. They get on a run, and this tournament is about getting hot and matchups. Iowa State doesn't want to see a team like BYU. That's a bad matchup for Iowa State. It just is. North Carolina does not shoot it real well. Ole Miss is kind of like Iowa State in the last 12 games, or 6-6 or whatever. Chris Beard is their coach. They're pretty good. They're getting better. I think this is his first or second year, so he doesn't have the full – you can turn things around quickly, but it does take a little bit of time to fully implement. But he's won actually, Iowa State has played him when he was at Arkansas Little Rock before he went to Texas Tech. And then he got the Texas job, and then he had his domestic issue and got fired there. But now he's back at Ole Miss, and he's in play for some jobs if he would like. So draw-wise, yes, Iowa State, as long as they play well, hit some shots, yes, I do think Sweet 16. Then if it goes chalk, it'll be Michigan State. And then it's a coin flip, and then it's Auburn. And Auburn in Atlanta, so very close. You know how close Auburn to Atlanta is. I think you lived in Atlanta when you went to Auburn, essentially Auburn every day down there in Alabama and stuff with McWayne's and stuff.
Yeah, Auburn's a little bit. It would have been south of where Anniston was,
Right.
a little ways, but yeah, obviously Auburn's not far from Atlanta, just like you said. Looking at that, I think most people would expect Auburn to get there. I do know you mentioned Ole Miss. There was a guy I was listening to, and I forget who it was, but he liked Ole Miss as a sleeper team coming into this tournament. He thinks even next year they could be even better. Plus, they, playing in the SEC with as tough as that conference has been, that was one just about a week ago. He really liked Ole Miss, so I almost picked them to get to the Elite Eight in that bracket. But yeah, for Iowa State, even with the injury, the season that they've had, you would hope that they could still win a couple games. Like I said, when I looked earlier, they're plus 170 to get to the Sweet 16. So you're basically betting on them winning that first one, fingers crossed, and then it's plus 170 odds to win that next game.
Right. Yeah, and you're getting that the first round, like you said, unless something goes haywire, you should win the first one. Second one's going to be you're not going to go blow a team out. You're going to play a good team, a team that you're probably going to be favored in by 8 to 10 points, but a team that if you don't play to your capability and you do some things and they hit some shots, you can definitely lose to. And then you never know who it is. We've seen it many times where, Illinois scored 106 points against Iowa State or Iowa in the Big Ten tournament and then just turned around and got throttled the next day. They can't miss a shot, and then the next night they can't hit a shot. That does happen in tournament play, both good and bad for your teams. So overall, Iowa State got a great draw. Obviously Atlanta, if you're going to go play Michigan State, if it goes chalk, obviously Michigan State or Iowa State, neither one of them are going to have a home court advantage there, both a long ways away. And then if you got to play the number one seed Auburn, well, that's what you get when the overall number one seed. One of the choices is just an hour or two away.
Yeah, I'd like to see Iowa State win a couple. Iowa State versus Michigan State would definitely be interesting. But you're right. If you're going to play the one seed, if you make it that far, that's the advantage that they get. The one seed, you're supposed to have some home court advantage. What was I looking at? Oh, you want to switch to Drake now a little bit? Yeah,
Drake got a good draw as well. Wichita, so not very far away for them, so their fans can get there very easily. This is how I was. I had SeatGeek and StubHub up because that's where I thought they were going. Was Wichita, and so I was ready to buy. And I'm like, well, if Iowa State doesn't go to Milwaukee, Wisconsin will for sure. So I'm like, I'm not too worried about selling my tickets. I think I can get my money back. If I make a little bit, great. If not, it's not the end of the world. But I was pretty sure I could get my money back with Wisconsin being there. And then I saw Wisconsin didn't even get there at all. I think I will be able to probably sell the one session that Iowa State, the Friday night session, if I want, because Kentucky is there. And Kentucky fans are freaking nuts. So I think I'll be able to get rid of my tickets if I want. Because I bought the all session pass because obviously didn't know which session they'd be in. So, but yeah, Drake and his two different styles. Missouri wants to run and gun, and they've got Caleb Grill that'll shoot 10 threes and might hit 8 of them and might hit 2 of them. And that's just kind of the way he is. Fire up the grill. And they got other players. They played in obviously the SEC, great league.
Now they've got a former Hawkeye and a former Iowa State player, right?
Yeah, because which Hawkeye is on there? The guard, right?
Yeah, I saw it earlier. I can't.
Yeah,
that's why we need Zach on here.
Yeah, it was. The guard. I can't remember his name, but yeah, they got a Hawkeye and they both should have decent fan base there. That should be a good game and good crowd and everything. So Wichita should be pretty happy with those two as well. And then I believe Texas Tech and Houston are the other two that are there. Obviously, Texas Tech's not going to be super far from there, but Houston's a ways. But it's probably the closest. It's the closest one they have.
Yeah, for them, it should be a good matchup. I know a lot of the guys talking on the selection show like Drake, and so hopefully they can at least win a game. I just looked; they're 7-1 right now to make the Sweet 16, so they'd have to beat Missouri, and then most likely, I believe it's Texas Tech that they would face.
Yes,
in the following game if it goes chalk. So 7-1. I don't know. I might have to throw a little bet on that to see if they can pull an upset. I actually do like Texas Tech though.
I'd say Texas Tech is good.
I like them to come out of their region. You can bet Texas Tech to win their region at 7-1.
That's not a bad bet.
At a 3 seed. So I think there's some money, or it's worth a little bit of money on that one. But no, for Drake, that'll be interesting. Creighton's obviously the other close team that made the tournament. They're an 8-9 matchup, aren't they?
Yeah, and that's an interesting. There's a couple interesting 8 seeds and 9 seeds. Creighton's a 9. Play Louisville, and then the winner plays Auburn. So 2 teams that know big time basketball, play it well, and then the other 8 seed, and I don't remember who they play, but is UConn is an 8 seed. So if they would win their game, now we've seen some 1 seeds go down, but 99% of the time, the 1 seed, I wouldn't want to play UConn in the second round. I'd rather play an Ole Miss or North Carolina or San Diego State, which is what Iowa State would play.
Florida would have UConn. UConn's playing Oklahoma.
Okay. Yeah, I would not want to play UConn. Those guys know how to win. Now, they're not the team they've been the last couple of years, but it's not the team I want to play in the second round.
Yeah, given the experience, a lot of people are picking Florida. I liked Florida too. That was one I thought about throwing on a bet to win it all. They were 4-1. I see
they looked really good this weekend.
Mm-hmm. They've dropped down to plus 380 from 4-1. So obviously people are betting on them right now. Did you want to get into? Do you want to do our Elite 8 picks or anything else?
Yeah, we can do that. Just with Florida. So against Tennessee, Alabama, and Auburn. So those are the 4 SEC teams that are all, 1s and 2 seeds. They're 5-1 against those teams. That's pretty good. So there's a lot of people picking Florida to win the whole thing, and them playing UConn in the second round possibly will be interesting. But got to beat them sometime. Oh yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I've got my Elite 8. I am very, very boring, and this is a disclaimer. I told Trevor this before. I haven't dove into this super, super far. So when we get to the bracket that I pick, and for those of you that are listening here that like doing brackets, ESPN, Morgan You Asked For podcast, there is a group password, so I will share that out to friends and stuff. Send an email to Morgan You Asked For podcast at gmail.com, and I can send you a password to get into our group. Winner, there are prizes for the men's and women's brackets. Trevor and I are coming up with some different prizes and stuff that will be, I know koozies are involved, some gift cards involved, and possibly some just cold, hard cash that might be in that. So if you want to join the group, you can notify us on all the socials individually on social media to either one of our things or at Morgan You Asked For podcast at gmail.com. And we will get back to you with the information needed to join the group. Yeah, so let's start with the South. I'm going to go chalk on here. Auburn and Michigan State in the Elite 8. I would have if Keyshawn Gilbert and Taman Lipsey were 100%, I would have Iowa State here. And I was watching the selection show, and Seth Davis would have had Iowa State in the Final Four if everybody was healthy as well. But especially with Keyshawn not playing at all, I do think they lose to Michigan State in the Sweet 16 this year.
So I'm going to go with what was my original for that one. I am going to have Auburn versus Ole Miss.
Okay. So you got Iowa State losing in the second round then.
Yep, Iowa State losing the second round on that one. So I wanted to go Michigan State, but I needed to have like one real long shot to make the Elite 8. I thought I got a bunch of other chalk for the most other than one, but Ole Miss is going to be my kind of one surprise Elite 8 team.
Okay, and now let's go to the East where Duke is the 1 seed. I'll let you go first on this one.
So here will be my second surprise, but I don't think a total shocker. I am going to have Duke losing to Arizona. I think Arizona is one of the hottest teams right now, and I've got Arizona versus Alabama.
Okay. I've got Duke, Alabama. Cooper Flag, that didn't look good, but I do think he's going to play, especially get through this weekend, get to the next week. That's 2 weeks. Should be pretty healthy if he's playing in the Sweet 16, I would think. So I'm going to go Duke, Alabama there. So I'm pretty chalk. Well, I am chalk there. That's 1-2. So I've been 1-2, 1-2. Pretty boring here. Let's go to the West, where they shipped Florida out west as the 1 seed. Super dominant in the SEC tournament this weekend. I'm going to go Florida, and then I'm going to go Texas Tech as well to make the Elite Eight out of that. So 1-3. So not complete chalk, but no surprise there.
I got the same as you, so we're identical on those two.
Okay. So, and then the Midwest, Houston's the 1 seed, and then I'll let you go first on this one.
So for this one, or as I call it, the bottom right, when I'm looking at the
it is
the full page to print it off, I've got Houston, the 1 seed versus number 2 Tennessee.
And I do too. This is one year where I don't know if there's a team that's really head and shoulders above anybody else. I kind of thought it might have been Auburn for a lot of the year, but they've lost some games here down the stretch. Now, they've lost to good teams. They've not lost to teams necessarily they shouldn't have. But I do think the top 2 seeds, so the top 8, 9, 10 teams, which I'm a little surprised, but Iowa State actually is the 10 when they went through 1 through 64. Iowa State's at 10. But about the first, 3 seeds, I do think there is a divide. And especially you go the top 2 seeds, the top 8. I do think there are some teams there that are just better than everybody else. Now, here's the one wild card. I did not pick them. St. John's. Rick Pitino knows how to win. It's just what he does. Unconventional style. Gets in trouble a lot of places he goes. But a lot of those things that he probably got in trouble for in the 80s and 90s are straight up legal now. So what the heck? That's the
coaching.
one.
It's the coaching region right there.
Yeah, it is. It's Pitino, and because then if they win, and then it's Kansas, Arkansas, so it's Self versus Calipari. That'd be really fun to watch Calipari and Pitino at Arkansas and St. John's instead of Kentucky and Louisville.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping for that. That's the big coach is there, of course, so that's going to be an interesting one. Depending on, we assume St. John's is going to win, and then it just depends as Kansas or Arkansas win it to go on to play St. John's.
Yeah, it's one of those. That's another. Kansas is another one, kind of like UConn. They're a 7 seed, but they were the preseason number 1. They've got all kinds of players. If they can turn a switch and play well, they can beat Arkansas, obviously. They can beat St. John's. They can beat Texas Tech. I think it is Texas Tech, isn't it? Is that region?
Yeah, that's that region, yep.
Yeah, so, would it shock any of us to see Kansas in the Elite Eight with Self pulling a rabbit out of his hat? Absolutely not.
Plus 550 Kansas to get to the Elite Eight.
Right. But could you see them losing to Arkansas in the first round? Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's just the reality of all of it. Especially when you're 7-10 is hard to pick. It's essentially a pick 'em anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Calipari knows what he's doing too. But yeah, it's so great. Now it is going to be different. The plan for Laura and I are we're going up. We're going to leave early Thursday morning. Drive up into Wisconsin. I want to go to New Glarus Brewery, stop somewhere, watch some games, find somewhere to stay somewhere in Wisconsin. Not quite get to Milwaukee yet. Go out to a nice dinner Friday night or Thursday night, and then now that the game's at 12:30, obviously drive into Milwaukee right away in the morning. Sure, there'll be a pep rally or something to do Friday morning. And then hopefully after the win, there'll be a good celebrating spot around Milwaukee. And that's the other thing is with being there, then Saturday got kind of all day to do whatever. Watch games, what I'm going to do. But never really spent time in Milwaukee, so we'll just see what it's up. And then Sunday, hopefully they play at like 12:30 again, so it won't be really late getting back home to get to work Monday morning.
Yeah, what's the latest? Do you have any idea what the latest they could play on Sunday is?
I don't know. I probably could look that up. I didn't. I'm sure it's 4 or 5 o'clock, maybe later. Do they go till 8, 9, 10 o'clock?
I think the opening weekend, I think there are games that start at like 7 or so Iowa time. So you could
but I would think that would be Denver and Seattle and
right.
But yeah, I mean, and it's not. I mean, I guess if you play North Carolina, that's a bit. I'm just trying to think. Just TV windows broadcast. Obviously they want to put as many people in front of a. If they're playing North Carolina, they're going to get a different time than if they are playing San Diego State. I would think. That's just the reality of North Carolina being a blue blood. And then depends on what channel you're on too. Like they're on TNT. Good broadcast. Stan Van Gundy is one of the guys on the call, so that's a good one. I like listening to him. Not that I'm not going to be listening to him, but that's a good guy to have calling your games. And obviously, TJ and Jeff Van Gundy, his brother, are good friends and spend a lot of time together. So he's got some definite insight with Iowa State basketball.
Yeah, are any of the games going to be on Peacock? We're going to have to flip around. Do you have any idea? I thought I saw something about that the other day.
I don't. I guess I assume it's True TV. That's
right. The normal. I hope
TBS, TNT, CBS. Yeah, True TV. What's the other one? Maybe that
TNT, TBS, True, and there's one other. Yeah, but I'm just hoping it's not like on Peacock where you got to switch out of all these different apps and everything.
See, and that's what's weird for me is that's all I ever do. So even when I go from TNT to TBS, I have to go from app to app. I can't just change the channel, just because of the way I do TV. But yeah,
hopefully it's easy to do that. That's one thing that was nice when we were younger is it was all cable. You just had the 3 or 4 channels memorized. You could click back, which I'm sure there's probably like YouTube TV or something. But I've got Hulu, so I know probably I'll have at least 2 or 3 of them. But I'll have to memorize what the numbers are and where they're at because I definitely don't want to, especially at the end of games, I don't want to be missing them.
Correct. So we're not way different on our Elite 8 teams. So pretty good there. Next, I guess I kind of want to talk about, have you seen, heard, listened? I know you're not anything about the Iowa coaching search, or you care even?
No, I'm just, there's a coach out there that I'd be interested in hiring. He got kicked out of his final game at the university. So I love Fran going out like that, getting a technical, getting another, getting kicked out. Fran went out his own way. He knew he was probably done. And I thought it was a pretty weak call anyway, but that makes me like Fran even more. That makes me like Fran even more. Him getting kicked out of his final Iowa game. I'd build a statue for him just because of that. Now he's like my all-time favorite Iowa coach because of that one moment.
He got tossed. I've never seen a coach get tossed with his hands in his pocket. So whatever he said, it was pretty good. I know they kind of asked him at the end, when he did his press conference, well, I was pointing out the foul differential or whatever. And obviously it was way worse than that, but I would love to know what he actually said. But I do think it was very soft because a couple of reasons. One, the officials know that this is probably his last game. They're human beings. They watch TV. They're on social media, just like everybody else. They're in the inner circle of college basketball. They know what's going on. Brad Underwood knew he was getting fired. I mean, it wasn't a secret. Tom Izzo knew when he was there for senior night. It wasn't a secret. And actually, I think it's kind of came out now where it was. I think he did know for like a month. I thought I saw that on social media where there is some indication that he did know for a while, but obviously he was told not to say, and that's why he kept saying he would be the coach, and you should. I mean, hey, you're going to coach now. Here's what I am surprised about with Iowa basketball. I understand he's gone and he needs to be gone, but I'm surprised they're not having one of the other assistant coaches coach them in a tournament if they get selected for this. But everything I've read, they're saying that Iowa's turning down the Crown tournament or the NIT. That's surprising to me because I don't think that's quite fair to the players. Now, Owen Freeman's in the portal. Other guys, they might not even have enough. But a guy like Peyton Sanford, I wish could have another opportunity to play a game or two or whatever.
Yeah, you would think the players would want to keep going. Let one of the assistant coaches coach it out.
Matt Gatens, let's give him a shot. He's a Hawk guy, loves the Hawks. Give him a shot.
Maybe it was a team decision that they don't want to go on without Fran. That could be it, because also what you saw too on social media was everybody left and right that has played for Fran or has known Fran came out with a positive post. So like we've always known, players and everybody loves Fran McCaffrey. There's no denying that. So his disappointments in the tournament are one thing, but the love that his players have for him and how well respected he is and liked throughout the Iowa community, you saw that on full display after he was let go.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I'm a little disappointed in the Iowa media, the Iowa Hawkeye media, because there were a lot of people that I listened to, and maybe it was just these guys that said Fran was really hard to work for or work with, and but yet when he got fired, they all came out with the nicey nice tweet. I know that's part of the job, but it's like, you want him fired, you say he's not good to work with, and he's hard, he won't give you what you need. He won't come on your podcast and stuff like that. But yet, when he gets fired, they all say, my mom and dad died, or my dad died the next time I was there. He was the first one to say, hey, sorry about your dad. Welcome back. We're thinking of you and stuff. So I was a little bit disappointed in Hawkeye media for that. But it does show Fran is and none of us can put ourselves in his shoes of what his family's had to deal with Patrick's cancer when he was in high school, and then what Jack went through last year. Can only imagine a 16-year-old kid that somebody walks in front of him and he hits them and they die, what that goes on in your head as a 16, 17-year-old kid. And then adding on to it, it's worse when your dad's the head basketball coach at Iowa, one of the highest recognizable people in the state of Iowa, and you're a big-time recruit yourself. So this isn't like one of us doing that when we were in high school, where it would have made the news for one day. It'd have been just, this happened and it would have went on. But that's in the news and it's still talked about to this day.
Yeah, a lot to deal with, a lot to overcome the past couple of years. That whole situation, like you mentioned, obviously with the media, it's going to be blown up even more with a situation like that. So, yeah, the media can be, they love to criticize people too, and then apologize later. Of course, he probably didn't want to go on a lot of shows. We know how Fran is, but again, all the posts from the players and people that really knew him, Fran must be just a hell of a guy to be your coach and just to know in general. So it is kind of sad to see him go. He resurrected the program. It was at the bottom of the barrel when he came in. Obviously, the tournament just couldn't quite get over the hump. And we've talked about before, it is time for a new start, though, because the attendance and all that. So I do like Fran going out that way, though, because like you said, he'd been kind of quiet all year. And then one last time getting teed up and getting
I think that was his first 2 tees of the year.
It might have been. I haven't been paying attention, but I like Fran going out like that. That's the Fran I know anyway.
Well, I do know Fran is not a golfer, because the only time I've ever interacted with him, we were at Finkbine for a regional golf meet, and his daughter played for West, I believe. She went back and forth. I think she had to go to Liberty for a year because they opened the school, but then she went back to West because we played her at both places. But I'm pretty sure she was back at West and she was on the golf team, and he was driving up and he came up and I was there. He goes, "Where's hole 8?" And we were not hole 8. So he does not play a lot of golf at Finkbine.
Is he rumored to go coach anywhere?
Officially, no. I have not heard. But I definitely could see him sitting out a year. And then maybe doing a little TV work. I think he'd be great. I think he would absolutely be great on TV. And then get back into it. Just kind of refresh yourself. And I do think a lot of these coaches, they can go around and go see their buddies, watch basketball, just watch it, learn, how other people do things and just how other places operate. Because he had been at Iowa for 15 years. That's a long time. Iowa State has been through Fred Hoiberg, Steve Prohm, and TJ Ossenberger all in that time. So, because him and Hoiberg got hired the same year, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, that is. So, yeah, the Iowa search will be interesting.
I do think it is DeVries, and I think it just got expedited because West Virginia was the first team left out of the tournament, which was a surprise. Mm-hmm. Them not getting in a tournament. So I do truly believe that opens them up to officially talk to him. Now, don't kid yourself. It's already happened. It's how interested are you? And they're coming. The talk is already happening. But now officially, I think, the actual text from Beth Getz to the West Virginia AD to request permission to talk to him can actually happen probably now.
Yeah, this is going to be really her first big decision because Iowa women, when that transition happened, it was naturally handed down to Jan, which is fine. It should have been in my opinion.
And that's probably why it happened when it happened. I kind of forced her hand a little bit by waiting till middle of May, end of May, instead of right after the time, just because, and that was the right choice. She had been, I'm sure, sometimes they actually do announce a coach in waiting, but now obviously maybe not with Beth, but with Barta or the people, sometimes they have a women's AD or a second AD that is in charge of certain sports. I think Iowa State did for a long time. I don't know if they still do, but there had to be kind of an agreement that it was her job if she wanted it, as long as she stayed. Now, she could have left about every year for the last 10 years to go be a head coach somewhere if she wanted.
Yeah, that was one thing that was nice to see, that the players stayed when she was announced the head coach. I know Addison Deal, her parents said that that was a big deal with Jan because that was a little bit of a surprise, obviously, but they wanted to stay with Jan Jensen. So seems like the players like Jan, and then like we said, back to Beth. I mean, this is going to be her first big decision, really.
Yeah, it's
the Brian Ferentz one was kind of forced, but we knew that one had to happen, right? I mean that
was, overall an easy one.
Right.
This one wasn't as easy if you actually look at the basketball side of it. I think it was easy on the financial side and just the state of the program. But if you just look at the wins and losses and basketball side of this and coaching the players and the transfer portal and all that stuff, he doesn't get fired with any of that. The NIL part, the, dealing with the media and just promoting the program and then just putting people in the seats, sealed his fate.
Yeah, and he put some guys in the NBA too. So, I mean, again, the March Madness never really happened for Iowa. But as we talked about this year, especially the low attendance, it just there's no juice with Iowa men right now. It's all with the women's side.
And that'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think it's going to be Darren DeVries or Ben McCollum. That's who I think it's going to be. Neither one of those guys are raw Bruce Pearl guys. I mean, they're not in that. They're not going to run out with their shirts off and celebrate on game day when they're there for Hawkeye football, like Bruce Pearl does when down at Auburn. But they're both really good basketball coaches. They're from Iowa. They both grew up Hawkeye fans. But it's one of those, I think if you're those guys and if you want the job, you go take it. But it's hard because in the realistic world, you're not going to be there for the rest of your career. Hope you are, but realistically, that's not going to happen. It very rarely happens in today's college athletics. And, Juwan Howard went back to Michigan and didn't work out. And you could go name 10 other times. Fred Hoiberg at Iowa State gave him a shot. He wanted to get back to the NBA. He left. The thing you have to a little bit worry about if you hire DeVries, I do think when Creighton job opens, that will be their first call. And if he is, I think obviously if he's a West Virginia coach, he's going to go to Creighton in a heartbeat. If he's an Iowa coach when that time comes, I think he has a decision to make, because I think Creighton's a better job. And I think that's probably his true dream job. That's where he was at for 20 years. But I would be tough if he's winning it. If he's at Iowa, let's say it happens in 5 years, he's in his 4th year as a head coach. He's went to 2 NCAA tournaments, went to 1 Sweet 16, broke the curse. That's a tough decision to make, in my opinion.
Yeah, we talked about the past couple of weeks. It's not really even so much a salary. It's what's the NIL going to be like. So Creighton said no football. They're probably going to have more money because of that. So it'll really be, if he does come to Iowa, have success, and something that situation happens. Of course, it's going to be what's the NIL money look like, and where does he think? Does he have a chance to even go further with Iowa, or does he want to go back to his dream job like you mentioned?
So that's the Iowa coaching job. Indiana's in play there, and we all know how the dominoes fall. Minnesota's in play. So it's just, there is talk that Greg McDermott goes to Indiana. Then DeVries has a choice to make right now. Does he want the Iowa job, or does he want the Creighton job right now? Without that being at Iowa for 3-4 years or whatever it is, to make it even harder. Now he's never been at Iowa, so that he doesn't know. McCollum's, if McDermott doesn't go to Indiana, I think McCollum's in that. McCollum's probably going to get called for the Minnesota job. Drake's old head coach, Nico Medved, before DeVries, will be in that Minnesota job. He's at Colorado State. He's going to be involved in that Minnesota job because I believe he's from Minnesota. So
a lot of coaching carousel going on. I know we did our Elite Eight. Do you want to do the Final Four and championship? I don't think we ever finished it. Do you have it written down?
I do. I would have to look at the bracket to actually do the championship games, but I can do that real quick. I got it right here.
So I've got my. I can give you my Final Four while you.
Yep. I've got my Final Four. I just need to look at who plays who in the semis. So okay, yeah, I got it. All right, so you go the South, and then you can go. I'll go first on the South, I guess. I got Auburn beat Michigan State.
I've got Auburn coming out of that one as well.
The East, go ahead.
The East is at bottom left. I've got Florida.
That's the West, but yeah, Florida's the West. Okay, we'll go the West. Florida coming out of the West. I do too. I have them beating Texas Tech, so we're 2 for 2 on that. Let's go upper right. I've got Duke and Alabama, and I got Duke winning that one.
Okay, and I've got this is the one surprise. I've got Arizona coming out, finally going on. I know they've had some tournament struggles over the years as well, but that's my one surprise, Arizona making the Final Four.
All right, I went all chalk so far. And then bottom right, which is the Midwest, go ahead.
I've got Houston.
Yep, and I do too. So I have all 4 number 1 seeds, so obviously that's not going to happen. I think that's only happened one time. And I reserve the right when I pick my brackets to change a little bit, but just quick glance and kind of pencil and stuff in. I just don't see the upsets this year at the top. And that means Creighton's going to beat Auburn and take out the champ right away. Let's see who's another 9. Mississippi State's going to beat Duke. Gonzaga's going to beat Houston. I mean, it's just that's what's going to happen. So
I kind of like Georgia a little bit in that bracket with Houston, but for the championship, I've got Auburn winning over Houston.
Yeah, so I'm going to have Auburn and Houston, and I'm actually going to pick Houston. I was really impressed by Houston in that Big 12 tournament. They've only lost 1 game by 1 point since the Big 12 started. So, and they've got 5 losses. I think they have 5 losses on the year. They lost to Auburn, Alabama, Duke. Maybe it's only 4. Yeah, because they've lost to Auburn, Alabama, Duke, and San Diego State. So I think they have 4 losses on the year. 3 of those teams are pretty freaking good.
It feels like the upsets will probably happen in the first round or so, but once we get down to the Elite Eight, the Final Four, like we've talked about a lot, especially this year too, at least from what I've been hearing, it feels like you got to have a lot of the top seeds.
Yeah, they were doing a percentage thing since 2018. The 1, 2, and 3 seeds. This is just the first round. Average 90, and that actually even counts with 2 16s being beat since 2018, which before that had never happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 92%. So essentially, the 1, 2, and 3 seeds, you have to move on in the first round for your bracket. Now, that doesn't mean they're all going to win, but you have to move them on in the first round. Start picking them off in the second or the Sweet 16. But the first round, 1, 2, and 3s, you have to move on to. Or if you do pick the upset, you better pick the correct one, because you got to have, essentially, to win brackets, you have to pick the Elite Eight pretty tight, I think.
So for me, I did, speaking of that, the one bracket I kind of had written down my biggest upset for this, and I do have Montana beating Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a 3 seed. So you're saying there's probably about an 8% chance of that happening, right?
Yep.
Like, that's my biggest upset, at least in the first round.
And that, it's out in Denver. It's going to be at altitude. Montana, that's going to be right up their alley. Wisconsin, not up their alley. That's I still can't believe that Iowa State's in Milwaukee over Wisconsin. It's crazy to me. I actually thought they'd both be there going into this, because Kentucky's there as a 3 as well, along with Iowa State. I thought it'd be Iowa State and Wisconsin, and then everything I was reading and hearing was going to be Kentucky and Wisconsin, and then Iowa State was going to get moved down to a 4 out to Denver or Wichita, and then this morning I saw 3 in Wichita, which that's really not that much different, but it just, for my purposes, it would just, this afternoon at 5 o'clock would have been canceling hotel rooms, getting hotel rooms, trying to sell tickets and buy tickets, which is fine. But
yeah, thankfully that worked out for you. Speaking of some other things that I had, about a week or two ago, I made a few bets, and these are 3 teams I bet to make the Final Four. And what my thinking is, I don't need them to make the Final Four. I need them to make the Elite Eight. Mm-hmm. Then depending on who they're playing, maybe I can hedge.
Yeah, you can hedge them.
So I got Arizona at 12-1.
Okay.
I got Clemson at 18-1. And then I bet Georgia at 60-1.
So I think Clark Kellogg had Clemson in the championship game.
He did.
Pretty sure. Yeah.
Yep.
And they were in the Elite Eight last year, mm-hmm. and almost made it. So, yeah, that's not and they beat Duke in the one time they played them. So, wouldn't be completely shocked if that happens. As a 5 seed, it's definitely an upset, but not completely shocked at that.
Yeah, not at all. And just some others, just to get to the Sweet 16, Memphis was plus 650. I bet that. I thought there was a little bit of value there on that one. New Mexico plus 450. If they could, I think they'd have to pull the upset against Michigan State, of course, for that to happen. And then just looking to win their region, obviously we know who the favorites are, but I wrote down each region and a team in each. The upper left where Iowa State is at, Iowa State's now 20-1 to win that region. Maybe they could go on a run. Probably not. There's a reason they're 21. If we go bottom left, as I mentioned when we first got started, Texas Tech at 7-1. Mm-hmm. I already bet that one. The upper right, you can get Alabama at plus 425. Again, they're a 2 seed. I think there's good value on that at plus 425. I like Arizona, so at 10-1. Right. Obviously, I like that one, but I've already got bets on Arizona. And then the bottom right, again, take out the 1 seeds, Tennessee plus 425. Kind of the same thing as Alabama, if you think of a 2 seed can get through there. And then Clemson at 12-1 and Illinois at 18. But I kind of like looking at those 2 instead of just picking the champion. You can pick, can they get to the Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final 4, win their region. So I'll probably have a few of each and give me kind of something to root for during the tournament.
Yeah, can I bet in Wisconsin or not? Or do you know?
I have no idea. You have to take a look at that.
I don't think so, because I was just there last summer. That's what I was kind of laughing, that I've really not spent a lot of time in Wisconsin. And then last summer we went up there fishing and on vacation there, just right off at Duluth there on the Wisconsin side. Now I'm going to Milwaukee, and the only other real time is when I went to the Ryder Cup at Whistling Straits, which was pretty cool. But that was just drive up Friday night, go to the Ryder Cup all day Saturday, and we drove home Sunday. So it wasn't really any time there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, hopefully I've looked at the weather a week or so ago, and it wasn't too bad. I need to look at it again with it being Wisconsin and headed north for spring break. Probably not going to be super warm, but hopefully at least the sun will be out.
Yeah, hopefully the weather will be good. And I'm looking right now. I don't think Wisconsin has online sports betting, but you'll have to double check. So yeah, if you want to get any of your bets in or whatever, you got to do it before you leave town.
I have to stop at Dubuque.
There you go. There you go.
So, all right. So let's just kind of quick go with the women. I think Iowa State can beat Princeton. I just think they're just going to be too skilled. I have no idea. I've never seen or really even heard of Princeton women's basketball. They don't run I wonder if they run the Princeton offense to the back cuts and everything like the men do. So I don't think Iowa State will have trouble there. And then they play Michigan, and the games are at Notre Dame. So that'd be kind of weird for Michigan to play at Notre Dame a couple games if they would win a couple. And I don't know much about Michigan. But I just think Iowa State's going to give, just like they did last year when they went to the number 2 seed Stanford, they can give them everything they got. Because, if Audie Crooks goes for 25 and Addie Brown goes for 25, then you just need 20-some points from the rest of the team. But yet, it's been shown all year they only have one quad 1 win all year. So when they play good teams, they've struggled. So I would say Iowa State wins the opening game. Toss up for the next game against Michigan would be my bet.
I think they can beat Michigan, and then after that, I would say that's probably about the end for Iowa State. But I like their chances if they play Michigan for that one. Obviously, they were a 6 seed, kind of like we predicted. They took care of business versus Michigan State in the Big Ten tournament. So they're playing Murray State on Saturday. I didn't see a time for that yet, but I like that one, of course. And then it would have to be Oklahoma if it goes chalk. And then, of course, UConn would be eventually down the road. So that's I was kind of hoping for TCU to be the 2 seed there and theirs, but it is going to be UConn. So that would be a tough one if that matchup did happen.
And interesting there being in Oklahoma and Norman with Jenny Baranchek being Oklahoma's coach, former Hawkeye. There was, some talk. That was probably the one other person that if you wanted to talk to somebody else besides Jan Jensen to be the coach, she's probably the one you would have wanted to talk to. And maybe they did talk to her. But it'd have been a little bit hard because he had just left Drake. I think this is her maybe 3rd year at Oklahoma. But she did a great job at Drake. I believe it was Jenny Lillis in high school, played at Dowling, so from Des Moines, went to Iowa, and then obviously went back to Drake and now at Oklahoma and moving up the ranks. I think the Iowa job's better than Oklahoma's, but they're in the SEC and they got all kinds of money. But so does the Big Ten in Iowa. So
yeah, we'll see if Iowa can go on a run. I don't know much about Murray State or Oklahoma all that much. My biggest thing is if those 2 teams don't run the press or don't run the press well, I think Iowa's got a good chance to win both of those games. But as we've talked about before, as good as Iowa's played down the stretch here, and I think they can get to a Sweet 16. You know what happens if you come out flat and don't shoot the ball well, the other team's hot. I mean, your season or your career is over in the first game.
Oh, absolutely. And 6-11 upsets happen every year. I mean, that's not that big of an upset. When you're picking brackets, that's the 5-12 and the 6-11. Those are the 2 that you're trying to pick the right one. One's going to happen.
And you got to have a 10 over a 7.
Right. But yeah, those are the 3 that the lower seed's going to win. You just got to figure out which one it's going to be.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm hoping Iowa can go on a little bit of a run, at least win the first game. If you lose in the round of 32 to Oklahoma, if it goes chalk again, if it's a close game, fine. Iowa's proven versus the best teams in the country that they don't get blown out. So I don't think that would happen even if they were to lose to Oklahoma. Now, once you get further than that, if you have to play UConn, that might be a little bit different story. But I still think Iowa can get to the Sweet 16. And that my prediction is they are going to get there at least this year.
Yeah, it's just going to be hard. But the thing with Iowa, they've proven it with them beating USC and playing UCLA to the end. Can't count them out. And Sydney Falter, this is it for her, right?
Yep, this is it for Sydney and Kylie. Addison O'Grady is a senior as well, and I think one or two others. So
yeah, so they're gonna
and Lucy Olson's a senior as well.
Yeah, so they're gonna give it everything they got, and the Sydney hits 4 threes, and Lucy Olson goes for 30. They're not gonna lose to a whole lot of teams now. You get to that next, you go play UConn, and that happens, they can still lose. But I think those first 2 games, if that would happen, they win both those games.
Yeah, and I did the same thing on the women's side as the men's. Did you write down the Elite Eight or anything for the women? Or
I did not. Nope. I'll let you go ahead and do yours.
Yep. Okay. We'll start at the upper left. I've got UCLA, the 1 seed, playing number 3 LSU. Again, yep. LSU, I think, is a team to look out for. They've obviously been there before with Kim Mulkey, as much as us Iowa fans like her. The bottom left, I've got number 1 USC playing number 2 UConn. Top right, I've got number 1 South Carolina playing number 2 Duke. And in the bottom right, I've got number 1 Texas playing number 3 Notre Dame. Notre Dame probably could have been a 2 seed. So mostly chalk there, which is pretty common for women. And then going into the Final Four, I've actually got 2 upsets. I've got both number 1 seeds out of the Big Ten losing. So I've got LSU versus UConn in the Final Four, and then South Carolina versus Notre Dame. And for the championship, I think I've got UConn winning it versus South Carolina. They're the 2 betting favorites.
Okay.
By a pretty significant margin. UConn and South Carolina are. So I think maybe Paige Beckers gets it done, and then if she is to win the national title, then we're going to get into this whole debate as she goes into the WNBA. Is she actually better than Caitlin Clark? Those debates will happen, even though she's playing at a powerhouse at UConn compared to Iowa. That's the way I'm looking at it right now. And then just looking at a few teams for betting odds to give you an idea. South Carolina's to win the championship is plus 270. UConn's plus 280. Okay. Then there's a gap. And then you can get UCLA at 6-1. They're the number 1 overall seed. And you can get USC at plus 650. They're the number 3 overall seed. Then you go down, and I've already bet a couple of these teams. LSU's 35-1. I bet on them earlier this year just because they've got the experience. NC State's number 2 seed, 45-1. And then TCU is a 2 seed as well. They're 65-1. But if you're betting, and this is probably what I'm going to do, I'm either going to pick South Carolina or UConn, one of those 2. And then I'm going to pick either UCLA or USC. Since there's such a big gap in the betting odds, I'm going to try to have 2 of the top 4, hopefully. Texas is also in there, but I feel like it's either they're plus 550, I think.
Yeah. When I watched Iowa State versus Texas last year in the Big 12 title game in the women's, and Texas super impressed. They were good. They were big. They were good. And I know like their best player was a freshman last year. I think she's a sophomore this year. She's 6'2", 6'3". Not a point guard, but definitely guard skills, and brings the ball up the floor and can put the ball on the floor and get to the basket. Just super impressive.
Yeah, and Texas is, the left side of the bracket looks a lot tougher on the women's side because you've got UCLA, USC, UConn, LSU, NC State. On the right side, you've kind of got, to me, it seems easier. You've got South Carolina and Texas. I think South Carolina is going to get through that right side.
Right.
Because, again, Notre Dame and TCU are pretty decent, but Duke's another one. I can't see Duke taking down South Carolina. So it feels like the left has, if you're going to come out the left-hand side, either the top or the bottom, it feels like it's going to be tougher. But South Carolina, given their history, Dawn Staley, I'm predicting a Dawn Staley versus Gino championship.
And that'll be really good. That'll be dynamite ratings, dynamite, just talk about it. Good for college basketball, good for women's college basketball.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, really, if you're a betting person, you can get, like I said, UCLA is the number 1 overall seed. They're 6-1 to win it. And USC, the number 3 overall seed, they're plus 650. So if you think either of those 2 teams can get there, there's value on betting on one of them.
Might have to do that.
That's my
value.
Yeah, well, we all do, And then, like I said, LSU, I think at 35-1. If you're going to go a long shot, I don't think you want to go any further than that.
Yeah, it's getting better, but there definitely still is a top tier, and then it drops off pretty quick in the women's game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't see anything for the women to like get to the Sweet 16, Elite Eight. DraftKings didn't have anything. I don't know if they will or not, just because women's basketball is starting to explode the last few years.
Right.
Not as in depth as far as betting goes. So I'll have to keep track of DraftKings to see if they come out with anything like that, like they have on the men's side.
All right. Yep. Very good. Anything else? No, I haven't really heard any NFL news for a couple days. They've kind of maybe taken a step back for a couple days, giving college basketball a chance.
Yeah, not much for NFL. We don't even need, maybe we can say that for later next week.
Yep.
But for the women's challenge, I know I told you I am going to have some cash payouts for the women's side. Again, the entry's free. I am going to pay out first will be $50. Second will be $30. Third place will be $20. You and I can't win the cash prize. We can win the tournament, of course, but we'll pay out first, second, and third to anybody not named us.
Sounds good. Nope. Yeah. So again, on social media, get with us at the Morgan You Asked For podcast social media or our personal social media accounts. Message us to get the password to get into those, and then obviously you and I will send it out to our friends and family just directly. I'll send you the link via text, and then you can send it out to who you want to on that. So very good. And then on the men's side, we'll have some koozies and then some miscellaneous gift card / maybe cards. I got some things here, I think. So there will be prizes for both men's and women's, and good luck to everybody. We're going to try to have, I don't know, Trev's busy this week a little bit, try to have a kind of a more of a NCAA preview, try to have Zach on or somebody. And then I will probably try to take my computer and microphone and try to do something. I will have all day Saturday where I'm not doing anything. And then obviously Fridays at 12:30. So we may try to do some quick, even if I don't bring anybody else in, something, or if you want to just get on and do something and send me the clip, I can upload it as well, Trev. So there might be some just quick 5-10 minute thoughts. Iowa State, great job. Iowa State, horrible job. Whatever. Oh my God, Auburn got upset by the 16 seed. Whatever. You never know what's going to happen. Did you see this shot to win the game or tie the game or whatever? That's what makes March Madness and the first week in the NCAA tournament some of the best days of the year.
It's one of the best weeks there is, some of the best days. And if you can't get me on, you can get other people, because we know most of America is not going to be working Thursday and Friday.
Right. And that's what's always, for the most part, pretty nice is I'm on spring break this week, so I don't have to work. So yeah, I'll be headed up to Minneapolis on Thursday, and then obviously Friday at 12:30. So I'll probably be in the arena before noon, and we'll go from there. I've never been in that arena. NBA arena should be pretty nice, I would think.
Well, enjoy the trip. Drive safe.
Yep.
Let me know what your schedule is. I'll do the same, and we'll see what happens.
Yep, sounds good. All right, thanks everybody for listening, and have a great week, and go Cyclones.
Have a good one.